Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money, all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify, and when you want to take conversations with your fans to the next level, Q&A and polls are the best way to get them talking. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions, and best of all, it's totally free. I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started today.
Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten, football talk. Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten, football talk. Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten, football talk. Big Ten, Big Ten, Big Ten, football talk.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Big Ten Football Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Guggenheim, and we have a special guest here for you. Eric Boggs from the OHIO podcast is here to drop some knowledge on some of the urgency of Ohio State's offseason moves. Eric, welcome to the show.
Hey, Zach, thanks so much. It's great to be here. Looking forward to talking Buckeyes with you.
It's very exciting. As the listeners know, I love all things Big Ten, but I am partial to one team in the heart of Ohio, the Ohio State Buckeyes. And so excited to talk a little Buckeye football with you, Eric. Eric, why don't you let us know where we can find your podcast? I know you're on YouTube and Apple. Where else can we find you? And when do you guys typically drop your stuff?
Yeah, so as far as streaming audio, any place you get your podcast, if you're a podcast listener, we're there. Just search the Ohio Podcast. And if you want the visual side of things, we are on YouTube at the Ohio Podcast. You can also find us on Rumble if you're not wanting to go to YouTube. If you're more on the Rumble side of things, we're also there as well. I think we're one of only a handful of Buckeye shows on Rumble. So we kind of wanted to be on the cutting edge of that. You can find us on Facebook if you're interested in social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook, just look us up at the Ohio Podcast. We have a business page as well as a group page that you can contribute to. And then we also are on Twitter, like I said, at the Ohio Pod on over at X.
Nice. Yep. And a lot of good stuff over. I'm often following you guys and what you're saying on X, because you often have some pretty good intel on certain things going on with the program. So, which we're going to get into a little bit here. Again, if you're not subscribed to our podcast here at the Big Ten Football Talk Podcast, make sure you find us on Apple, Google, Spotify. You can send me emails at bigtenfootballtalk@gmail.com. Follow us on X and Twitter as well. And make sure you follow the OHIO podcast wherever, whether it's on Rumble, YouTube, X, Facebook. Make sure you give these guys a follow. They are awesome. Let's dive right in, because I feel like Ohio State has had a very up and down, or maybe I should say down and then up start to 2024, because at the end,
that's fair enough to say.
because they're walking off the field, AT&T Stadium, 14-3, losing to Missouri, and what I thought was a phenomenal defensive performance, and maybe the worst offensive line performance I've seen maybe in 25 years. I mean, it was rough. It was a very rough performance. A lot of things that you couldn't help, right? Kyle McCord went to the portal, so he wasn't available. Marv wasn't available for that game. But the offensive line had looked like they hadn't played together. And so you come off the field, the mood just seemed just awful. And then, of course, Michigan wins the national championship. So that's all in the negative for Ohio State. But all of a sudden you get all these impact guys coming back, how has the mood shifted from the days after the Cotton Bowl to now?
Well, before we dive in the mood, Zach, are you a tinfoil hat wearing kind of guy? Do you like to hear crazy fan theories?
I like to hear them, but often with I'm ready to have an eye roll when that happens. So, but I would be very curious what you're about to say.
Ryan Day threw the game on purpose in order to get Howard.
No. Okay, keep going. Keep going.
So there is a fan theory out there. I'm not saying that I subscribe to this theory. Okay, I'm not saying that at all. But I will listen to this a little bit because there's a lot of people who feel that Ryan Day knows and understands that he's got one chance to get this thing right in 2024. And he felt he didn't have the right quarterback in place in order to secure his job moving forward. And that included the fact that McCord left, and that might have been a little bit from Ryan Day, possibly saying to McCord, I don't know that you're my guy. However, I again, I don't attest to that either. I think that was a little bit more from the McCord camp than the Day camp. But then understanding where his roster was at, especially in the quarterback room, he purposely called a very watered down Manila offense and didn't prepare the offense properly for this game, with the understanding that he was going to want to go to the portal to find the QB for 2024 to take them to the promised land. Also knowing that Aaron Nolan is only going to be a freshman and probably wouldn't be ready. That's the crazy fan theory there.
Interesting.
I'm not saying that is true, but there's a little bit validity to some of that. A little bit.
Well, and I think whether it's true or not, you almost wonder if he had gone into, to win that game and then Devin Brown gets hurt, you wonder if maybe things switched in his mind as well.
That's another good point. Yeah, like Devin Brown's hurt and he's like, because I mean, how many times did he say we have a freshman quarterback? Yes, this is true, but how many other bowl games did you watch freshman quarterback absolutely ball out?
Yep. Yeah. Interesting. So that's a theory out there.
So there's our lead off right there. So you know where this show's gonna go.
This is gonna go crazy. This is fun. So the fan theory out there, that's at least one of them. Let's just be clear, and we're both Buckeyes.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State fans, we can be a little crazy sometimes.
A little bit. Come on.
Little is an understatement. I have a listener, Yankee Wolverine, who is great guy. As much as I do not like Michigan, seriously was pumped for him. He's been a great listener on the show. Several other Michigan fans who have come on, but he's probably listening as we're talking. He's like, oh boy, here we go. This is going to be nuts.
Literally.
Yeah. Yes. But let's get back into that mood question, because, for those who weren't subscribing to that theory, you got past December 29th and you're like, what just happened? And now it kind of feels like there's a lot of juice coming from the Woody Athletic Center.
Zach, we went from counseling agencies in Central Ohio making more money off of Buckeye fans in the month of December to complete adulation. And it was a complete 180. And, there's a lot of people who think that Ryan Day is kind of pulling the page out of the Michigan playbook here. Michigan had how many upperclassmen on that team? I believe I think they said it like 3 or 4 times during the national championship television telecast. They only had 2 5-star on the entire roster, 5-star recruits.
Yep.
So you have a situation here now where for the first time in my cognizant Buckeye fandom, where we have more draft eligible juniors coming back for a senior season than going to the NFL draft. This has never happened in my cognizant Buckeye fandom ever. We have been the NFL draft factory for the Big Ten for the majority of my life,
Mm-hmm.
leading that banner, followed by a close second by, Michigan and Penn State from the Big Ten Conference. And to see the just ungodly number of juniors who are like, I'm coming back is completely, it changes everything, not only for the resetting of the mindset of what 2024 might be, but also those expectations of what 2024 is going to be. And so the atmosphere, especially on Buckeye Twitterverse, is completely changed now.
Mm-hmm.
And thoughts and prayers for Ryan Day in 2024, because those
Yeah.
expectations are you will win the game, you will win a Big Ten championship, and you will have some measure of success in the new 12-team playoff, CFP playoff, or we are calling for your head, and there's going to be no stopping whoever the new athletic director will be come July 2024 uh, from him firing you, because this fan base will not take it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gets to a question I want to ask you later on. But yeah, it seems like there is a lot of juice, but a lot of expectation. I keep
Hmm.
seeing a lot of people saying if they get another player or if they get this offensive coordinator or this, they are the unquestioned preseason number one team. And I sit there, I'm like, no, don't give them that. Don't do that.
No,
Don't put that pressure on them.
well, that's not true. I would say we're top three.
Yeah.
I think Georgia still has the best roster
Yep.
going into 2024 from what I've been able to tell. I don't think you can count out Alabama yet, although I know that roster is getting picked over like a dead carcass on the side of I-71. I mean, this is crazy stuff happening down south right now. Um, but with the changes that we're going to see in college football, there's really a lot of unknown too. And there's still some pretty good rosters in the ACC and the Big 12, to where I don't think you can just crown Georgia and Ohio State the college football championship game for 2024. I just don't think you can do that yet. Let's see how some of these transfers that's come in can affect this roster early on in the season next year before we crown them
Yeah.
eventual championship game material.
Yeah. Well, that leads into the next question I want to ask you is Ohio State hasn't had a lot of transfers come in, but the transfers they've had are impact guys.
Oh
Will
yeah,
Rogers, not Will Rogers, Will Howard. Um, is it Quishon Judkins? Is that how you
Quin
say his first name?
Quinshawn.
Quinshon Judkins, who I believe was the number one running back in the transfer portal. Um, and then McLaughlin out of Alabama is the center, which they need offensive line help. Tell me, how impactful will these guys be? And there's the tight end from, I believe, Ohio as well, who's
Yep.
coming in.
Hmm.
How impactful are these guys going to be?
Yeah, let's break these down real fast, Zach. So let's start with the tight end, Will Case Merrick. Um, he is what a lot of people are calling a poor man's Cade Stover. Big, I think he's 6'6", somewhere around the 250 area. He's a big boy. Better athlete than what you would assume. A tremendous, gets high level grades from PFF in his blocking skills, especially run blocking, which we desperately need at Ohio State. Do I think he is going to be on the same level as Cade Stover? No, I do not. But can he offer more stability in the run game blocking? If he does, then this is a win for us. And so, even though he's coming from the MAC, small school, he's got 2 years of eligibility remaining, Zach. He, I think, is a nice little depth piece for this tight end room. Let's see if G. Scott, who will be in his G. Scott Jr., who will be in his, I believe, 6th year of eligibility at Ohio State this year, if he can finally take that step. Started off as a high 4-star wide receiver from the state of Washington when he came in, moved to tight end, has a tight end body, just needs to become, I believe, more consistent. And with
Mm-hmm.
more playing time, hopefully he becomes more consistent. You got will be a sophomore next year, but he was a freshman this year from the state of Georgia, and Jelani Thurman. He played a little bit there, got the start in the bowl game, didn't have a chance to even get a ball thrown to him because of how bad the offensive line looked in that game. Let's see if he can take another step, because I think they're going to be counting on him to be a real weapon in the passing game, from the tight end position. But as far as Will is concerned, Case Merrick, I thought that was a pretty good first swing and hit, if you will. Got a single in the transfer portal. Then they get the center from Alabama, Seth McLaughlin. Now, had a little bit of the Yipsies in the champion or in the CFP game against Michigan. Uh, Everybody saw the bad low snap on the last play from scrimmage where they didn't score the game tying touchdown in overtime, and now he's coming to Ohio State to rectify that. A lot of people thought, well, we hope we move him to guard. He's not. He's playing center, and this is not fan theory. This is true. What happened with Carson Hinsman, the starting center at Ohio State for all season, in the bowl game is criminal. What this coaching staff did to this young man. Don't know if you're familiar with what happened and why he didn't get to play in the bowl game, Zach. Have you heard any about
I
this?
I've heard official, like the official statement that he didn't practice well,
Which is
but
bull crap, but okay.
yeah, yeah,
It's hard. It's hard to practice well when you're in trouble and not even allowed to practice. But okay, yeah,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah.
Went on a podcast, spilled some beans on the podcast through an NIL collective, and with a former high school teammate of his, shooting the breeze, having fun as old high school teammates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not malicious at all. A lot of it's tongue in cheek.
Yep.
Coaching staff didn't like it. Benched his butt. That's what happened. Why they refuse to just say that, I think, is kind of soft on their part. But the fact that that didn't happen, and then they moved pieces around on that offensive line, almost got a quarterback killed in that game.
Yep.
And is unforgivable, in my opinion, as an Ohio State fan. And I wish someone from the media would have the cojones to ask the true question, other than why didn't he play? Ask the question, the follow-up question, because they asked the question and well, he didn't have practice well. Okay, explain what do you mean by that? Where's
Yeah.
the follow-up to that? There will be, I think, someone who will probably ask a question eventually at the next press conference, and Ryan Day will skirt it like a good, coach would always want to,
Yeah.
but
It'll
that's
probably
just criminal.
it'll probably be Doug Maurice who asks that question, because that
Doug
guy,
Doug is awesome.
he's amazing. He asks all the hard questions.
Yeah.
And yeah.
In ways that they can't skirt it. That's what I love about it.
He's great.
Yeah. Because he'll go in a minute and a half explanation before he asks the question and force them to actually answer the question, which is a little secret, behind the scenes there. But Seth is going to be the center. Now, what they do with Carson Hinsman, I don't know. I'm weird. I'm very worried he's going to jump in the portal after spring ball and head back to Wisconsin.
I hope not.
I'm
I thought
very
he
worried about that.
I thought he improved so much
Oh,
over the
I
season.
thought he played great. I thought really, in all honesty, he was probably one of the better linemen we had all season.
Yeah.
Which is why their excuse on why he didn't start in the bowl game, Cotton Bowl, is to me malarkey, because even if he had a bad practice or two, or a weak bad practice, he's your starting center. He's an extension of the quarterback on the offensive line. And you want to know why we couldn't block air? Because we literally put Matt Jones at center, who has never started there. He's only the backup center, been the backup center for 4 or 5 years, but has played all his time, took all his reps, all his game film, everything has been at guard, and you move him to center and expect things to go well. Like that's a nightmare that you're asking for there. Like, you just don't do that. Anybody with any football knowledge knows that you do not bench your center for a couple bad practices. You just don't do it.
Yeah. It was certainly it was very weird. And Enoch Vamahi did not inspire any confidence that
No, and the
he
fact
can
that they failed to
take that.
develop that guy is another strike against this coaching staff, in my opinion. I remember when they got him late in the recruiting cycle, when he signed 2021, I
It
think
was
was.
it was it I think he's a third or fourth year. Yeah, like he's
Yeah,
been in the program for a while.
a high 4-star. Like, I want to say borderline top 100 recruit,
Yeah.
and has done nothing.
Yep.
Nothing at all. Is just a complete failure on this coaching staff to either A, recognize that he was overrated, or B, not develop him.
Yep.
And maybe both. I don't know. But that was a tragedy. But moving forward, not to take up all my time on the offensive line, because I'm sure this will not be the only time we speak on the offensive line on this podcast. Will Howard was next. Okay. So Will Howard, here's a comparison for you. For those of you who don't know, who only know Ben Roethlisberger from the big ogre from Pittsburgh, okay? Gotta love him, right? As a Bengals fan, I hated that guy when he was at Pittsburgh. He's Ben Roethlisberger in college. And if you, anybody who followed Ohio high school football back when Ben Roethlisberger was playing at Findlay High School, he should have been on Ohio State's roster. And the story goes that John Cooper was at the end of his tenure as coach, and when it came to recruiting, was really slipping bad. Those last 3 or 4 recruiting classes that he had were nothing like he was spitting out in the early to mid 90s, when he was basically hitting. And at the time, they didn't grade recruiting classes back then like they do now. But
Yeah.
he was hitting recruiting classes that were national championship level consistently, year in and year out. And by the end of the 90s, that wasn't the case. And Ben Roethlisberger was the number 1 quarterback in the state of Ohio, hands down. And could have went to Ohio State, should have went to Ohio State, and John Cooper whiffs on him.
Wow.
They brought him in late in the process. John Cooper didn't even know his name. And so Ben Roethlisberger is like, well, screw you. Now he could have went to other Big Ten teams. Like, he could have, at the time, he was probably getting offered from like Indiana, Purdue, Northwestern, things like that. So he goes to the Ivy League School of Ohio, which is Miami of Ohio, which is in Oxford, Ohio, which I don't know if you've ever been to Miami's campus. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it is beautiful campus, rich as could be, tremendous education. He goes there for educational purposes, balls out.
Yeah.
Gets picked in the NFL, and the rest is history. That's who Will Howard is. And K-State fans who I have, we've done some videos on Will Howard, and K-State fans are quick to jump on there and just gush over this guy. Not one K-State fan has acted like Ohio State fans when it comes to our quarterback who jumped in the portal, who were all like, bye-bye. They're all like, man, we hate to see this guy go. You guys are going to love him. So
Wow.
that changes my perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
If you leave a school and they're all like, yeah, we're kind of glad he's gone, that worries me. But if they all like, man, we love this guy, we wish him nothing but the best, we're rooting for Ohio State to win a national championship because we love this guy,
Wow.
That changes your perspective a little bit.
Yeah.
And so this is a big guy, big body, Ben Roethlisberger, could move in the pocket. Remember how Ben would move in the pocket
Yeah.
for a big dude? That's who Will Howard is. He's going to change the ability to run the football because he can run the read option extremely well, is
Mm.
not afraid to tuck it and run. And I think the first time on like a 3rd and 3 or a 3rd and 4 when nothing's open and he tucks it and he runs for a first down, the horseshoe is going to go ballistic
Wow.
because we have not seen that since Justin Fields.
Yeah. Well, and it's I appreciate, because I remember I came onto your podcast and we were talking about recruiting signing day. And I remember at that point we thought Will Howard was going to USC.
Right.
And I remember thinking, I don't think that's enough. And but part of the reason why was because I was gun shy with the roster around him at USC, because I knew they were losing a lot of pieces and their defense still can't tackle air. We'll see how that changes under Danton Lynn. But it sounds like with the roster that Ohio State has, maybe except for offensive line, which we'll talk about, like it sounds like what you're saying is that this is really helpful for Ohio State, because Will Howard, he may not be like the elite level guy, but he is good enough to utilize all the weaponry that Ohio State has.
Yeah. And so Will Howard's he's gambling on himself is what this is. Okay. So he got a grade back from the NFL that he was probably a 5th, 6th, or 7th round draft pick.
Mm.
Good enough to compete to be a backup on an NFL team. Maybe. He looks at this as, okay, I'm going to take one more year, gamble on myself that I go out and have an amazing year and raise my draft stock to be at least a 2nd day draft pick, 2nd, 3rd round. I can either do this at USC or I can do this at Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
Will Howard's not a dumb man. He took a look at the roster, which also includes a defense.
Yep.
And said, I probably have a better chance of making more money come draft day in 2025 with Ohio State than I do USC. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. And most likely he's going to get that shot. He's going to, unless if Devin Brown or Lincoln Kienholz or Aaron Nolan comes in and just blows it away like they haven't. Aaron Nolan, we haven't seen anything yet on the college level, but it's I would assume that Will Howard's the starter opening day 2024, and that this is going to be his team moving forward.
If he's not, one of two things happened. Something went incredibly wrong, and you're going to see that roller coaster ride for Ohio State to continue. Or one of those guys, more than likely Aaron Nolan, came in and just blew the socks off this coaching staff. And even if he does that, they still probably won't start him simply because he will be a true freshman.
Yeah. This is it's really helpful to put it in context, because you always have to look at play, especially quarterbacks, right? Of course, CJ Stroud is going to blow this out of the water because of what he's doing in Houston. But for most quarterbacks not named CJ Stroud, like, you really have to look at the roster around them. And so where at USC, I didn't think it made sense. For Ohio State, I'm not sure Will Howard is the reason why Ohio State is going to be a premier offense next year, but I think he's a very important cog.
Oh, he's definitely a piece of the puzzle, put it to you that way.
Yeah. Speaking of pieces of the puzzle, Judkins out of Ole Miss is that last transfer, and people thought he would be the number one back if Travion Henderson left. He didn't, which we'll talk about. But people think that this could be the best number 1-2 punch in all of college football at the running back position. Speak to Judkins a bit.
Did you know the only running back in the history of the SEC to have better stats in his first 2 years was Herschel Walker.
That's rarefied air right there.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Judkins is coming to Ohio State because Travion Henderson came back. Believe it or not.
Really?
Yes, and the whole thought process behind this move from the insiders who have spoke to Judkins was the idea that I only have so much tread left on my tires, and if I stay at Ole Miss, I'm going to have even less tread on my tires when I get to the NFL.
Mm.
He's had over 500 carries. No, 200. It was over 500 carries in 2 years.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of carries. That's a lot of wear and tear on your body. The idea is if I can drop those carries down to about 125 and split them with another great back, then maybe we can go win a national championship and we both can go be top draft picks in 2025. That's the whole thought process. So, no, he was not coming to replace Travion. He's coming to be 1A with 1A and 1B with Travion.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, they have a little bit of contrasting styles, although Judkins he's quick, he can cut. Um, but he can really pound it in the middle too.
Yeah.
And that's going to be, Judkins is maybe more of a complete back than I think Ohio State has had since J.K. Dobbins. Like, I think J.K. might be the last one that he had the speed, the wiggle,
Yeah.
but also could kind of get up in there and deliver a blow.
That's funny you say that. My co-host Aaron Brown, who is the brains behind the film study and on our podcast, he coached at a very high level. He's played at a very high level. He understands the nuance of football much better than myself and my other co-host Chris. Um, that's the same comparison he made. He said this is J.K. Dobbins with maybe a little bit more power, where J.K. was maybe a little bit more on the runaway speed type of thing than what Judkins has. Judkins is more welcoming the contact than what J.K. was, but very, very similar body type, style, etc. So that's interesting. You made that same comparison.
Yeah, it's exciting. It'll be exciting 1-2 punch for sure with both those backs. Real quick before we move on from the transfers, there's been some smoke, maybe some fan theories with tinfoil hats about certain Alabama transfers possibly looking to come to Ohio State. What have you to say about that?
I'm trying to calm Buckeye Nation down on that a little bit. I don't believe, even though I do believe that. Well, obviously, it's obviously happened. There's been a handful of Bama guys jump in the portal and leave already. Okay, I understand that. Nick Satan, as we like to call him on our podcast, he still has the ear of that roster and the respect of those players that he recruited. He was at the press conference yesterday. He's still, I believe, very persuasive to some of these players. There's one guy I know for a fact that Ohio State would love to have on their 2024 roster, and he's not in the portal yet. And there's been a lot of smoke that he's coming, and it's because as soon as Saban announced his retirement, he started following all the Buckeyes on Twitter. Okay, and so immediately all Buckeye Nation is like, he's coming, and of course I'm talking about their leading tackler in Caleb Downs, who was a true freshman safety and led Alabama in tackles. Okay, you don't do that at Alabama. Okay, this kid is sensational, and I just think Coach DeBoer is better than what people are giving him credit for.
Oh yeah.
He did a good job at Fresno State. He won it a small college before that. Uh, Look what he did in 2 years at Washington. Like, this guy has taken rosters and beaten opponents who have better rosters than what he has.
Yep.
This is a good football coach. This is a football dude, okay? I think if he can persuade a lot of that starting talent that's still there to remain, I don't think you're gonna see any more Bama transfers to Ohio State.
Yep.
But if there's one, it would be Caleb Downs. And as soon as his name were to jump on the portal, you best believe Ohio State is the first place he's calling. Because when he announced uh, little over a year ago where he was going to go, he chose Alabama over Ohio State, and he admittedly said it was very close.
Yeah.
Alabama doesn't have their coaching staff anymore in place. Ohio State does. Same guys that were recruiting him.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Good. That's really helpful just to put in context. You started talking about Ohio State's coaching staff still in place. Not everybody is still in place.
especially on the
Um,
offense.
yeah, but big coaching moves have happened. Parker Fleming was fired, which probably should have happened about 2 years ago, but it finally came. Somehow he wasn't the first staffer fired.
Yeah, that which is
Um,
interesting to me.
but Perry Eliano's out. Matt Gutierrez, it's Matt, right? Matt Gutierrez comes in to coach safeties, which he's coached under Jim Knowles in the past. So that seemed like it made sense. Um, how are you making sense of the coaching moves, and not just how should there? Well, let me ask this: what do you make sense of those coaching moves, and also are there other ones coming?
Yes and yes. Okay. Let's put our tinfoil hats back on, shall we? Okay, let's go back to very good. Let's go back to the press conference at the Cotton Bowl before the game. And there was this question from a Missouri media member to Coach Drinkwitz on explaining the success in 2023. And Coach Drinkwitz offered Ryan Day in his response some free advice. And
Mm,
he said to the media member, I had to look myself in the mirror and realize that I was doing a disservice to my team by trying to be the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the quarterback coach, and the play caller.
mm,
Sitting literally 5 feet from him when he's answering this question is the head coach of Ohio State, Ryan Day, who's trying to be the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the quarterback's coach, and the play caller. Okay. I think Coach Drinkowitz and Ryan Day know one another. They admittedly have talked about how that they've communicated in the past. They have respect for each other. They've gone to coaching clinics together. They're about the same age. They've kind of come up in the ranks before. Not saying they're best buds or anything, but they like one another. I really think that Coach Drinkowitz was being truthful in his response to the question, yes, but at the same time offering Ryan Day some free advice, whether on purpose or not. That's what it was. That being said, Ryan Day made a decision 2 off seasons ago by going to Gene Smith, the athletic director, and requesting that they hire a head coach for the defense,
mm-hmm,
which was Jim Knowles. Jim Knowles has complete control over that defense, given the fact that he has to go to Ryan Day to ask for permission. But other than that, this is all his defense, baby. This is his team on the defensive side. The Perry Eliano firing, it wasn't a firing. It was they didn't re-up his contract, but that took me by surprise a little bit.
mm-hmm.
And what I'm hearing is that was a Jim Knowles decision.
Wow.
Jim Knowles' defense is a safety-driven defense. And although they played really well this year defensively, um, especially in the defensive backfield, especially at corner.
Oh gosh, those corners are so good.
I don't think Perry Eliano was doing what Jim Knowles wanted, or at least
Mm,
to the level that he expected. And so Jim Knowles says, I know a guy who knows my scheme like the back of his hand, who I want in that position. Plus, Perry Eliano's had some misses in
yep,
recruiting lately. And if you're going to run a safety driven defense, you got to hit home runs at that position.
yep,
And that hasn't happened. Some doubles and some triples, but no home runs. Like we said, Caleb Downs went to Alabama, not Ohio State. And it wasn't because of money. This is
hmm
what I'm told. So that's what that's about. That on that side of the ball. Now, let's take that same thinking and flip it to the other side of the ball now, Zach. Ryan Day needs a head coach on the offense. Someone he can trust. Someone just like Jim Knowles. I'm going to give you complete control of the offense because I trust you to have the same amount of success as what I had when I was offensive coordinator and calling plays under my leadership, obviously, as head coach, just like the defense, but someone I can trust. That's who that hire is going to be. And I have a name for you two names for you that I think Ryan Day would hire. Well, one name I think he would hire today,
mm,
and I think this is why you haven't heard anything yet. And it's also why you haven't heard Corey Dennis's name have been not renewed yet, his contract. Is because I think when this guy's brought in, Ryan Day is going to give him complete autonomy, just like he gave Jim Knowles, and that includes the staff
mm.
on the offensive side. Now, obviously, Brian Hartline's not going anywhere. Okay, if you come in, you're like, I want that guy fired. You're a complete moron. You're not getting the job. Okay, but here
Truth.
is a name for you that I know they are. I think they're waiting on the talk to, and that is Joe Brady, the Bills' offensive coordinator,
Oh wow,
who was the play caller at LSU
LSU. Yeah.
when they won the national championship. Okay, and now here's the thing. He's got college football experience. He was a heck of a play caller, won a national championship. Has NFL experience now. Went to Carolina for a couple years, sitting there with the Bills, right? Who's the Bills quarterback? I mean,
Yeah.
looks a whole lot like the guy we just got from Kansas City, or from K-State, if you ask me.
Yep.
Okay, there's a lot of comparisons there. I think he's going to get the first shot at this thing if they can pull him away from there. If they don't, here is another name for you that I think a lot of people need to get familiar with. Jason Candle, the head coach at Toledo.
That's the name I've heard from a lot of people is Jason Candle.
Head coaching experience, done a great job in Toledo. You can trust him to do a good job. These are a couple names. The Dan Mullen thing, I'm sorry, I can't get behind it. I don't see it. I just don't see Ryan Day. And plus, if he comes, he's coming to step as a stepping stone real fast. Not to say Candle isn't as well. Because to go from Toledo as head coach to OC at Ohio State is, in a lot of ways, maybe kind of a similarly a lateral move, especially financially.
Mm-hmm.
But you're doing that to then get a head coaching job at a bigger school. I get that. But in the meantime, it also offers Ryan Day a little bit more time to get Brian Hartline ready because he's
Yeah.
just not ready yet to call plays.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you haven't heard them replace the special teams coordinator position yet, and why I think you're not going to hear anything until the playoffs are over. Is right there.
That makes
Now,
sense.
here's another coaching name for you that I'm hearing, and that is that Ohio State is really trying to pull Jason Taylor away from Miami.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
And the idea behind that would be if they can bring him in, this is a guy who they can put on staff right away so that when Larry Johnson does decide to retire, they've got his replacement, one of the best in the game already.
Yeah. That would be a heck of a move, and it would also it would leave a lot of questions for guys like Justin Scott who who flipped from Ohio State to Miami. But
Is it Lightfoot or
yeah, Lightfoot's the other one that
the
got away
defensive
from him.
end? Yeah,
Yeah.
Gordon Lightfoot, I think. No, what's his name? I can't remember. Anyways, he tore it up in the all in the that Senior Bowl that it was a couple weeks ago, and he just tore it up. And I was like, man,
Mhm.
that kid would have looked good in scarlet and gray. But I digress.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say it looks like they might get Kirks though, who was a Washington commit. Um, it's Kirks, right? The Dominic Kirks out of Washington.
Oh, the Northeast kid,
Yeah,
who
yeah, yeah,
decommitted from Washington. Yeah. So
yeah,
he's interesting to me because he's a late bloomer. Like you didn't hear anything about this kid until his senior year of high school, and then he exploded. And so, you know, I often feel like they should always keep back one or two scholarships for kids like that in the state of Ohio
yeah.
that just explode their senior year, and now you're like, oh, we didn't. I'm sorry. It's like,
Go
what are
get
you
him.
doing?
Just
These
go
are the
get him.
these are the kids from the state of Ohio who understand the game, man. Like,
Yeah,
if there's one thing I really if I could sit down with Ryan Dane and they're like, you get to offer him one piece of advice, I would tell Ryan, concentrate more on Ohio kids in recruiting.
yeah,
They understand the rivalry more than you do, buddy.
yeah, yeah. Well, and just to kind of move us along here, a lot of guys that really understand the rivalry now in terms of pain
Yeah.
is the class of 2021. And I think it was 8 impact guys. And you talked about it at the top of the show, right? Never in our lifetimes, at least in this current world of college football, where, you know, if you're a fifth rounder, you go to the NFL draft. Like it used to be that if you're a first round pick, you go and nothing else. But now it feels like if you're, Luke Whippler left and he was a 6th round pick. But probably 8 guys from that could have gone to the NFL are staying. And these are impact guys. Travion Henderson, JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Denzel Burke, who I thought was a
That's a
1st-round pick.
that's a first round pick, guaranteed. That
Yeah,
kid played lights out this year.
yeah.
He
Emeka,
was our defensive player of the year on our podcast.
he was phenomenal.
He's an island.
He was the best corner I've seen since Akuda at Ohio State.
Agreed.
Like, just was phenomenal, physical. Emeka Ibuka, who I know he was hurt, but probably still would have been a borderline 1st-round pick, maybe early
Mhm.
2nd. So we're not talking about guys who were maybe, some of them were probably maybe third day guys, but a lot of these guys are 2nd day and first day picks coming back. Obviously Marv's not coming back because he might be the number 1 overall pick, a top 3 pick at the very late, or at the very least. And then Mike Hall, who I guess maybe has some family obligations that maybe the other guys don't have. But Tyleik Williams is another one who I think really raised his stock this year, really played well. So I'll start with this question first. Who, out of all those guys, who's the most important returnee?
Oh, geez. That is a tough question. I'm going to go Jack Sawyer, and here's why. I think at the end of the year, that was the heart and soul of that team on defense.
Yep.
He understands the rivalry. He's a Central Ohio kid. He wants to win it so bad that like he was the first one who was like, "I'm back. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not leaving without gold pants. I'm coming back."
Yep.
Um, I
Block O recipient next year.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That's a Seeing the block O on that bad boy coming off the end you just gave me Buckeye goosebumps, man. Now you like that. Good on you, Zach. I'll give you credit for that when I bust that out on my podcast.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I think so. There's two guys who made a decision to come back. They might not have been drafted, but they're also going to be impact guys that I think deserve to be mentioned. I have 10 on my list. I have 2 on offense. They're both big guys. Mecca Buka, Travion Henderson. That's no brainer. Defense JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, Tyleek Williams, like you mentioned, Denzel Burke in the backfield, defensive backfield, like you mentioned. Jordan Hancock, Lathan Ransom came back. Here's 2 names for you that decided to come back. I think one would have gotten drafted. The other one probably wouldn't, but they're both impactful. Ty Hamilton could be a 5th-year
Yeah.
senior. His brother plays for Jacksonville, is on the exact same trajectory as his brother was. And his brother had a phenomenal 5th-year senior season, and then catapulted it to, I believe, a 3rd or 4th round draft pick, and now is in the second contract in the NFL and has made millions. Okay. Same body type, same type of player, same attitude. I mean, everything is exactly the same. Same last name, same mom and dad. Everything is the same here. His decision to come back is very impactful, even though he might have been probably a 6th or 7th, maybe even like a signee, maybe not drafted. I don't know. Here's another one for you. Cody Simon.
Yes. Yeah.
We're going to if there's anything on this defense that's got me kind of like, they're going to need a little bit of work. It's going to be the linebacker room, right?
Yep.
You're losing Tommy Two Thumbs Eichenberg. We're losing Steel Chambers from that linebacker. Those guys were 3-year starters.
Yep.
Solid linebackers. Not saying that they're Chris Spielman guys. I know that. They're not.
Mhm.
But Tommy Eichenberg's a 2nd-day draft pick. He's probably 2nd, 3rd round. I think Steel Chambers, whoever gets Steel Chambers, is getting at least a 7, 8, 9-year NFL player.
Yeah.
He's never going to lead your team in tackles. I understand that. But he is tremendous depth. He's a hard worker. He's always going to play. That's a good pro right there, Steel Chambers. And a great quote, by the way. Whenever that guy's interviewed, he cracks me up. He is hilarious.
Yeah.
Him and Kate Stover were roommates, and you could tell. All 3 of those guys were roommates, believe it or not. Steele, Tommy, and Cade. Some of the stories they tell, it's hilarious. But anyways, both those. So the linebacker room is gonna be interesting. You got CJ Hicks in his 3rd year. What's he done? Nothing. 5-star who's done nothing.
Yeah.
They always went to Cody Simon.
Yeah.
So I think he's a starter. I think there's a possibility that next year's other starting linebacker is not CJ Hicks, but Sonny Styles.
I wondered. A lot of people have been talking about his body type and how he might need to drop down.
All right, here we go. Crazy fan theory. You ready? Caleb Downs jumps in the portal, becomes a Buckeye. Where does he play? He plays the position that Sonny Styles was at. Sonny slips down, becomes starting linebacker next to Cody Simon. CJ Hicks is probably gone. He's probably going to jump in the portal if that were to happen.
Yeah.
But you tell me if you have to trade CJ Hicks and his potential for Caleb Downs and his season that he had leading Alabama, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
That would almost immediately be. I mean, Ohio State was already one of the top 5 defenses in the country. But I mean, at that point, you're talking about a defense that between experience and talent would probably be the best in the country.
I didn't look at the final statistics, but I want to say that Ohio State defensively gave up only 11 point something points per game this season, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. Only one team got more than 17 points on them, and that was Michigan.
Okay. Ohio State's going to average next year defensively less than 10 points a game.
I could see that. Although they've got they've got a tough game against Oregon at Oregon,
right?
but again, they're not, aside from Oregon, you're probably not playing any good like you're not playing great offenses
Okay, yeah, I
with
understand
their
that, but
schedule.
but before Oregon, you do realize we're playing Akron, Western Michigan, and was it like Connecticut or something? I don't even remember. Like it's like
It's bad.
we literally pulled a page out of Michigan's playbook in 2023 and be like, we're playing high school teams to start the season, okay?
Yep, yep. We're doing the anti USC. We're
In
not
fact,
playing.
Ryan Day should go ahead and call Caleb Downs, take a 3-game suspension, and just let's do it. Let's go. Come on.
There has to be a hamburger involved, though. That's
Sure. Caleb Downs, come get you a Buckeye burger. Let's roll.
let's go. Go well, Terminator. That's
Oh yeah, you're Central Ohio. If you're
well,
talking about the Terminator.
so I've never had one. I've got a good buddy who we went to high school together, and we were gonna go to Son of Thurman's, and I was so excited.
In
But we
Delaware,
never.
Ohio, which is where I live.
Oh my gosh. Man. I gotta get there so we can connect in person.
Yeah, let's do it. It's awesome. It's a great place. I literally could just about walk there from where I live if I wanted to.
I've never been there. I gotta go. All right. I forget where I was going with that. Oh, yeah. So the defense could be phenomenal.
Oh, it's gonna be great.
I mean, it will be. They will be phenomenal. Because you were starting to talk about the expectations. What does it say about maybe Ryan Day and Ohio State that these 10 guys are all coming back?
That the culture's better than what we thought it was when we were all panicking after the Cotton Bowl and after losing to the team up north 3 straight years in a row. There's something that Ryan Day has got going on that bothers me, and it's a little this whole tough love moniker that he pushes out. I don't really think it's as tough as he thinks it is. I know for a fact that Lou Holtz doesn't believe it's as tough as Ryan Day thinks it is. And that whole Ryan Day and Ohio State's not tough thing is just blown out of proportion because of one clip after beating Notre Dame on the last play of the game. You know, like it's kind of comical now, but the culture's better than we thought. It also says this, okay? This is not tinfoil hat wearing stuff. This is true. Ohio State collectives have got their crap together now.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know how it happened. That is going to be one of the things I'm going to effort this offseason is to get somebody from a collective on my show to ask what changed from 2022 through the course of the 2023 recruiting season into 2024. But this is what I know. There are 2 major Ohio State collectives, the 1870s Society and the Foundation. There was no communication between those collectives. There is now. If you notice, Ohio State, when the transfer portal opened, did nothing. They sat on their hands and did nothing. They were told that to do that. And the reason why is because the collectives were like, we're going to finish this recruiting class off the right way. We're going to get these guys here. If you notice on signing day, Jeremiah Smith, Edric Houston, both ended up at Ohio State after major flirtation with, Florida State, Miami, Georgia, Alabama, right? The collectives swooped in and were like, this ain't happening. Then after that, all these players return. That has a lot to do with the fact these kids are getting paid. Now, some of them are literally taking less. They're taking a hometown discount than what they would have got in the NFL. I understand that. Some of them, Denzel Burke, Travion Henderson, JT Tuimoloau, Jack Sawyer, probably all would have made more money in going to the NFL. But all 4 of those guys are 7-figure NIL deals.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Their families
and that's a big
families
deal.
families aren't hurting anymore. Those kids.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're going to make they're gonna make theirs in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like they're not walking around multimillionaires on campus, but through the course of the season, they're going to make upwards of well into the six figures, close to seven figures, if not seven figures. Now, that's
Yep.
not the case for all 8 or 10 that we talked about. Okay.
Yeah.
But the major ones here, it is the
Yeah.
case, thanks to the
Yeah.
collectives. Okay. So the the culture's better than what we thought. The collectives and the money's better than what we thought and what we were hearing and being told, right? What's wrong with Ohio State's NIL collectives? Why can't they get their NIL crap together? Oh, it was together on
Yep.
purpose.
Yep.
That's why you didn't see anybody coming out of the transfer portal at first, and it's why you saw them concentrate on just those 2 guys on signing day. Here's what we got. And now you're starting to see what's left over. Okay, we've got this guy out of the portal. We got this guy out of the portal. We got and they're starting to come. Okay. So the Ohio State's NIL collectives are organized. They are following the rules. I've not been told that they're cheating on anything. They are just organized. The money is there. The backing is there financially, and everything is rolling in Columbus, Ohio on that front now. And that had a lot to do with what took place.
Yep. Well, and that I'll be honest, that spells, I think, danger for maybe the rest of the Big Ten, maybe even the rest of the country. Because
There's one other Big Ten team that can do exactly this, and it's Oregon.
yes. Yeah, I
And
think Oregon, and they
they've
have
got
been.
they've got Nike money flowing like it ain't nobody's business right now. Like
Yeah.
yeah. And the next closest would be Michigan, just
Yeah.
because of their alumni. And but let's be honest, like economically, Detroit, which compared to Columbus, is not even. Detroit is hurting, dude, financially,
Yeah. Yeah.
economically.
Yeah.
Now there are poor parts of Detroit that are trying to get things moving and turned around, and good for them. I look at Detroit a lot like Cleveland. Okay, like Cleveland's a Buckeye city. That's a
Mm-hmm.
Buckeye town. So if you're going to compare Ann Arbor and Detroit to Columbus and Cleveland, it's no comparison.
Yeah. Yep. My dog just wandered into the studio. So
Go Bucks.
It's just what happens. Welcome to my house. It's crazy town. Let me get you out on this question.
Okay.
Is the 2024 season legitimately a national championship or bust type season? And before you answer that, I know for Ohio State fans, every season's a national championship,
right?
Season. But I mean, and you alluded to it earlier in the show, like if they don't win a title, Ryan Day's gone. Like, is it that type of a season next year?
Yeah, his seat's hot. Gene Smith did a major favor to Ryan Day when he decided he was going to retire in June of 2024. That bought Ryan Day one more year, because I think if Gene Smith was not going to retire, I think there might have been more serious conversation on whether Ryan Day was the right guy or not, after 3 straight losses to that team up north. But because there's just no way Gene Smith is going to fire somebody on his way out, it bought all the coaches for all the programs, including Chris Holtman over at the basketball program, which is just, I know, not a part of this podcast, but good Lord, is that a train wreck right now again? Like, he's losing with a top 3 roster in the Big Ten, and it's so frustrating. And I'm a basketball guy, Zach, and I can't right now. I'm angry before I even watch the game, just because he's so lackadaisical as a basketball coach, so uncreative. But anyways, Ryan Day's seat is officially hot. Okay, the new athletic director that's going to come in is inheriting a very good football program that is all in on 2024. Ryan Day is pushing all his chips to the middle of the table this season, which is what all these moves have been, including Will Howard. I call him Will Howard the Buck, as my nickname for him, which is a terrible nickname, I understand, but I like to show my age when I say that, just because I think it's funny. Um,
That's great. That's great.
anyways, so he's pushing all his chips into the middle, Zach, on this season. If he doesn't beat that team up north and win a Big Ten title in 2024, I think the pressure on the new athletic director to fire him will be immense. It will be immense from this fan base. Depending on who that hire is, we'll see if that person will cave or not, if that were to happen. But if Ryan Day can do that, whatever happens in the CFP is going to happen. Something crazy could happen. Like we could have a major injury, or, like you just don't know. But you got to get there. But in order to do that, you've got to win the game and at least get to the Big Ten title game. Let's say it's Oregon and it's a rematch and it's a close game or something. Okay. Like I'm gonna be angry, but I'm not gonna say fire you, especially if he then turns around, goes to the CFP and makes a run to the championship game.
Yeah,
But
it's a little different now because you're not facing Wisconsin. No offense to Wisconsin, but like Wisconsin doesn't have the upper level players that
no,
other
you're
teams do.
you're not gonna play in Iowa who can't walk and chew gum and offensively.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not gonna happen. You're gonna play Oregon again. I don't know what USC's. My early prediction is that Ohio State and Oregon are going to play twice, if not three times next year. Like get ready for Ohio State Oregon rivalry, folks. It's going to happen. Like this is going to be it. This is the start of it, in my opinion. And if Ryan, so you don't know what's going to happen there, but Ryan Day, given everybody who's come back, given all the support from the collectives, giving the expectations from this fan base already here on January 14th, your seat's hot. And I've kind of labeled this season, it's time to crap or get off the crapper. It's do the business or get off, Ryan Day. It's time, man. Let's see what you got.
Yep, that makes sense. Well, I really appreciate your perspective. We're gonna wrap up here again. Tell us where we can find your podcast. And while you do
Yeah.
that, I'm gonna get off for a minute and shut the door because my kids are going crazy in the back. So you tell everybody where we can find. Oh, somebody actually came by and shut the door. My wife.
They
must be
heard
home.
you. They heard you
Yeah,
and were like, yes,
they
yes,
shut
Father.
the door.
Yes, Father. We will do this.
God heard and he answered. There we go. Anyway, those of you who are watching on YouTube are probably getting a kick out of that. Anyway, tell us where we can find your podcast and where we can tune in.
So yeah, I don't know if I don't want to take away from your show, Zach. If you do something on Sunday evenings, I apologize. We go live every Sunday night on YouTube. Of course, we stream to Facebook, X, and Rumble as well. But we try to push everybody to YouTube because that's the main streaming platform. We go live every Sunday night at 8 o'clock Eastern. Today we have Master Teague the Third as our special guest. In the off season, we try to bring in different guests, some former players, maybe some scouts or recruits, media members, friends from other shows like yourself, Zach, during the off season. But 8 o'clock Eastern every Sunday night we go live very soon. And I want to stress, if you come, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you get notified. because very soon we're going to be doing a call-in show on through YouTube as well. So all Buckeye fans can call in and argue with me and lose if they want to debate me. Uh, It'll be a lot of fun. Or we'll get a lot of them tinfoil hat wearing folks. I'm telling you, it's gonna be great. By the way, Zach, I got told I'm like the Buckeye version of Alex Jones. I look like Alex Jones. And I'm like, well, first off, I don't sound like this. But if that's what you guys want to believe, that's fine with me. You can just come over to the Alex Jones Buckeye show. That was a terrible impression. I don't know how he does it. I'm like, my throat hurts already. 8:00 Eastern on YouTube at the Ohio Podcast on YouTube. Check us out. Find us if you want to listen to the audio version on whatever streaming platform you want to get your podcast from. We're there. Just type in the Ohio Podcast. You'll find us over on Facebook again at the Ohio Podcast, and over on X, aka Twitter, at the Ohio Pod.
Awesome. Well, Eric, thanks again for spending some time with us. It's been informative and fun, just like I knew it would be. So appreciate you, brother. And again, if you want to catch them Sunday nights at 8 live stream, catch it on YouTube. This has been the Big Ten Football Talk podcast. On Thursday, we'll be dropping a pod talking more about some of the bigger NFL draft decisions. Obviously, Kalen DeBoer, we have not talked about him going to Alabama. So we'll talk about him. We'll talk about JJ McCarthy leaving Michigan.
Yeah, you know why he wants to leave? You know why JJ's leaving, don't you? He wants to go out saying that he never lost to Ohio State, little wimp. Come back another year, JJ. Get your medicine, man.
I've got Michigan fans on the show that listen to this show, Eric. I got Michigan fans.
But yeah, you come on my show and debate me on that, Michigan fans. We welcome you, trolls.
Oh, this is a good way to go out. Again, appreciate you guys. Appreciate you, Eric. Thanks for coming on. Take care. God bless.